How does it feel to be here?
It feels tremendous. This is going to be a special night. You know what I mean? It's feels like I'm ready to fight tomorrow night. I could go there now.
Yeah.
I could go right now. Literally go right now.
Yeah.
And it'll be even better when it's fully 11,000 Scottish fans.
Yeah. What do you think it's going to be like in comparison to Dallas and places like that you've fought before?
I think you could take 1,000 Scottish fans and they'd make more noise than 18,000 Americans. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I can only imagine it's going to be about 11,000 of them. The world's in for a treat in the UFC as well. They thought maybe Ireland was loud and London's been loud, but I can guarantee you when 11,000 jocks are in here, it's going to be nuts. I think Houston had a problem back then. Wait till see July the 18th. I'm going to take the roof off it. You know what I mean?
What's your walkout tune going to be?
I've still not worked that out. I've got some ideas in my head, but I need to wait to the night, so I'm not letting you in it yet, Neil.
Do you need to second it with the UFC, or will they just let you roll with it?
And believe it or not, you need to second it with Dana White.
Do you?
If he doesn't like your song, it doesn't get put on.
Right.
I had a wee bit of an issue with him in Dallas. He didn't like my walkout song in Dallas. So the UFC came back and said, listen, you're going to need to change that.
Dana White, obviously, he absolutely loves anybody who's really patriotic and stuff as well. Do you think that sort of affected you getting into the UFC?
I think they really didn't have a choice, you know what I mean? I was batting that many doors down, and they had to take notice eventually rather than later, sooner rather than later.
What do you think was the sort of pinnacle fight in your pro game pre-UFC?
Probably in Glasgow when I knocked out Martin Svensson.
Yeah.
He was number 3 in Europe at the time, and I was an unknown. So it was perfect, you know. The scene was set for me to really stamp my name on the European scene that night, and 38 seconds later I did.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't have played it any better.
Yeah. I was actually at that fight, and I was just outside the cage the whole time, and it was just absolutely unbelievable. The atmosphere when you came out in the full judo gear.
Yeah.
And everybody was going crazy. How fast was the stoppage?
38 seconds.
38
It
seconds.
could have been stopped well before that, you know. I reckon it could have been out there in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
It was just lucky that I'm still not punching on the day.
Yeah.
I still would be. You know, the referee saved his life that night.
Well, he was tipped at the time to sort of be
he was
the next featherweight UFC, wasn't he?
He was the big thing there.
Yeah.
And he probably thought he was the big thing going into that
Yeah.
night. And 6'2", who would blame him thinking he was the big thing? You know what I mean? But I could just tell he didn't want to fight for the day that we in.
Yeah.
I could just tell looking in his eyes. You can tell what for a man when you see him, you win. I could just tell he was more a martial artist rather than a fighter.
Yeah.
And especially when coming to Glasgow, you know, there was no Swedish guy going to beat me that night.
Yeah. If you were going to get him up against the cage, then he just had no chance.
And that's where it finished. That's where his downfall came. The cage actually held him up twice for being knocked out. He was unconscious in the cage. So the cage done him favours that night as well, and the referee. The only favour nobody done him was me.
Yeah.
First show I went to was in Lanark. Really just for something to do on a Saturday night. I just went along to see a fight show. 6 weeks later, I was in the cage fighting my first amateur bout.
Right, so you come from a judo background, but you've got the nickname for the Hammer. So how did that come about?
One of my coaches at the Grip House, James Dillon, we were doing ground and pound drills on the bag, and I was pounding the bag like a sledgehammer. So that's how that came about.
Yeah.
And then later, if anybody's wanted to do a wee bit of history research, when I fought David Galbraith on top, I KO'd him from ground and pound. He was on oxygen for 4-6 minutes.
Right.
So that really cemented my name after that.
How many of your fights were stoppages then?
I couldn't actually tell you. I couldn't remember what I was doing yesterday, never mind
No?
how many fights my stoppages have been, but I think maybe 7 stoppages, 3 decisions. And really the other 2 decisions I could have stopped the guys easy, but at that point I wasn't really interested
playing
in
with
fighting.
them,
I was just
obviously.
playing with them. I wasn't really interested in fighting at that time. As my manager knew at the time, he'd actually speak me into fighting because I said I was finished with it.
Yeah.
So those decisions, I just wasn't really interested. If you took them 3 fights ago, the guys would have been stopped in record time.
Why did you want to get out of it?
Just I felt I wasn't getting the breaks. The politics were coming into play too much.
Yeah.
I was doing the business in the cage, but backstage, the important work wasn't getting done or wasn't getting took care of. There's people know that the MMA is a business now, not just what you do in the cage. It's your overall brand.
Yeah.
And that bit was just failing me at the time, so I was getting a wee bit upset with it at the time. But thank God I persevered with it. You know, I'm sitting here in the Hydro, ready to walk into a UFC event July 18th, which will be making history again.
Yeah, because I remember you used to come into the shop and see me, and you would always be talking about how I would say, "Oh, if you get into the UFC," and you're like, when I get into the UFC, Neil. And it's quite a cool sort of example of visualization. You sort of had a dream, and you just accepted that was the only way it was going to be.
Because I knew at the time, if it was down to me and it was left to me doing what I had to do, there was no going to stop me. I was going to do whatever it took.
Yeah.
But towards the tail end of my fighting in the local scene, it was more to do with politics and the business side of it. It was letting me down. But initially in the start, I knew right away I was going to be in the UFC, and I told guys like you that every time I saw them.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of time, you know, because I knew what I was doing in the cage. I knew what I was capable of.
Yeah.
And I knew that that's what people wanted to see.
Yeah. Well, there was quite a lot of stuff on social media that sort of probably grabbed the attention of the UFC as well. There was a lot of petitions and different pages were getting made by people saying Robert Whiteford needs to be in the UFC, and they all took off. Do you think that had a part to play?
Oh, huge. You know, I'm always grateful for what the public did for me. Again, that's the business side of it. If it doesn't really matter what you're doing inside the octagon, if you're knocking guys out in 1 minute, 2 minutes, and then going home and nobody's hearing from you again, then that's not what they're interested in. The fact that then the public took it upon themselves to let the UFC brass know that there was a guy from Scotland capable of fighting on their stage, it was tremendous feeling. And I knew then, once I got the public on my side, especially the Scottish community, that it was only going to be a matter of time.
Yeah. And then when you fought Daniel Pineda in your second UFC fight, that was your first UFC win.
Yeah. Basically my first UFC fight as well. You know, look at that fight I took on Manchester against Jimmy Hettis. I was looking at the bigger picture, you know.
Yeah.
5 days notice. Who the fuck's going to fight in 5 days notice?
Yeah.
Never mind, I was sitting in a Chinese buffet stuffing my face.
Yeah.
£30 to cut. So that fight's erased from my memory, if you'd like to put it. And so really, when I fought in Texas against a Texan in front of 18,000 Texans in his backyard, that was my debut, you know. And it still didn't faze me. I was walking in there, and I really couldn't care less when I knew inside myself what I was capable of, and I was just being quietly confident that I was going to take the win that night.
Yeah, I remember you said to me just after it that you would have taken a fight against a heavyweight if the contract was up for grabs, which is a really cool thing to think about as well.
Yeah, probably a wee bit stupid as well. I mean, you've seen the size of those monsters in there. But that's the lengths I was wanting to go to. You know, I wasn't one of these guys that got an easy road there. I just had to take the punches and roll with them.
Yeah.
And lucky enough, I got another opportunity from the UFC, which I always knew was going to happen anyway, and I knew that would be my time to show them what I was capable of. And even then, I played the fight safe. You know, I just beat the guy in every area. Never really took any chances. Even though I did hit him with 2 head kicks, it would have dropped a bill. He was still coming at me, and that. Then right then, I knew that was the difference between fighting in the local scene and fighting against top world level athletes in the UFC. You know. And the guy never took a backward step, and it hit me with some big shots. And previous fights to that, if I'd hit any of those guys, they would have been kind of finished with him.
Yeah.
But then again, when I come to Glasgow, July 18th, it's going to be something more special. You know, I don't need to play it safe. I don't need to watch my P's and Q's in there. I've got 11,000 people. I can say what the fuck I want, do what I want, and they're going to be on my side. So I'll be looking forward to getting back to my old fighting style, you know, and putting these guys away early.
Where will your fight camp be?
As ever, it's going to be in Scotland at the Grip House and in Florida, American Top Team. This time of the show being in Scotland, I'll hopefully come back from Florida a little bit early and finish my camp at the Grip House. Start at America and finish it here.
Yeah.
So that's the plan for that. This will be like walking into a coliseum here. 11,000 Scottish fans. I can just feel the atmosphere there now. It'll be tremendous. I can only imagine the noise they're going to make. Fought all over the world and trained all over the world. It'll be great to eventually fight here with some home support. 11,000 Scottish. Yeah, it'll be a sea of blue and white here. Tartan Army. It's going to be great.